the bridie doll would be brought to Chalice Well in the morning just for the women. And the women would gather and give gifts to the bridie doll. Meanwhile, the men were out preparing the bed for bridie in the assembly rooms and getting the assembly rooms all decorated up for the celebration in the evening, which meant that the women had the day. And so what to do? Well, I said, why don't we walk to Bride's Mound? Because nobody else knew about Bride's Mound. It was like a forgotten bit of Glastonbury. And that was the start of the walk to Bride's Mound. And then we would come back. There was a place called the Bridget Chapel in the Glastonbury Experience, and we would meet there, the women, in the evening. We would then go to the assembly rooms and knock on the door, and knock on the door, and knock on the door, until finally, it was normally Pixie, and he was always very resistant, would let the women in. And we were led up to the hall, and the hall would be in complete darkness. And one by one, hand by hand, we would be handed round until all the women were standing in a circle. And when all the women were in and the circle was complete, one woman would go to the door of the hall and shout, "Bridie, come in, your bed is ready. Bridie, come in, your bed is ready. Bridie, come in, your bed is ready." And a girl with a candle would walk in, followed by a girl carrying the bridie doll. And we would have been given candles when we came in, and every single candle, men and women, were then lit from that one candle. And the bridie doll was then put in her bed. Whilst we were in the darkness, Osha and Jane would sing Aisha Barn. And if you want to hear it, it's the most hauntingly beautiful song to Bridget. And it's on the Friends of Bride's Mound CD, Songs of Bride. So there's a plug for you. And then yes, so Bridie would be there, and then we'd have feasting and merriment, the men and the women all together celebrating spring coming. And that's why the walk. Okay, so the way we're walking now, we're going to be walking down Portchester Drove. And this is part of a pilgrimage route that Alice Buckton and friends from Chalice Well, and this was the Tudor Pole women, created back in the 20s, I think. And where we're going to be passing when we get onto the riverbank is a stone that has been put for... The stone was put to mark the point of what was called Bride's Well, which is where the blue bowl, which had been found by Goodchild and placed in this pool by the river, had then been found by Kitty Tudor Pole. And that's a Chalice Well story, because Wellesley Tudor Pole then gave it to Chalice Well when he bought Chalice Well back in the 50s. So that's another little bit of the story. The other bit of the story I'll give you now is the King Arthur bit of the story. So they say that King Arthur was resting and staying up on Weariel Hill. And he had a dream that told him to go to Bride's Mound. And he ignored it. And the next night he had the same dream, and he ignored it. And the third night he had the same dream, and he knew he couldn't ignore it anymore, because in Celtic tradition it's always 3 times. So he went to Bride's Mound, and there was the hermit priest celebrating the Mass, and by his side was the Virgin Mary with her son. And she gave her son up as the offering for the priest to offer. And King Arthur was so amazed, wonderful, taken over, transformed by this vision, that he changed his pennant from that of a dragon to that of the Virgin with Child and became Christian, so they say. So that's another little legend linked with Bride's Mound where we're going to.